So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susan Edgman Levitan, and I'm the director of the Stokel Center for Primary Care Innovation at Mass General. And I'm very happy to welcome you today to our Geriatric Medicine Town Hall. We're so happy you could join us, and I really look forward to our presentation today from Dr. Eddie Phillips. So before we get started, I just want to share a few of the housekeeping rules. All of you are muted because we do that because sometimes people may have to have a conversation or there may be some background noise, and we really want to eliminate all of the background noise so that everyone can hear Dr. Phillips. To view the speaker on your full screen, you can go to the gallery view in the upper right-hand corner. And if you want to see the speaker only, you can click on speaker view. And if you want to see the speaker in a smaller box along with everybody else that's participating, you can click on gallery view and that will show you all the participants. If your picture becomes jumpy or gets out of sync as we go through our presentation today, you can go to the lower left-hand corner where you see a little video camera and click on that to stop your video. And that often helps speed up your internet connection. And so your picture will become more stable. We ask you to please submit your questions in the chat box, which is right in the middle of the screen at the bottom of the screen. And we do that so that we don't have any background noise. But I also just want to remind everybody that anything that you write in that chat can be read by everyone in the town hall today. So you definitely do not want to put any personal medical information. And if you do have questions about any of your medical issues, we recommend that you reach out to your doctor so that you don't have any privacy issues by putting things into the chat. We look forward to all your questions. Please enter them freely into the chat as we go through the presentation, and we'll do our best to answer everything by the end of today's town hall. So with that, I'm going to introduce our speakers today. We're focusing on movement strategies, preserving our mobility, balance, and strength. And we will first hear from Dr. Eddie Phillips, Associate Professor of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation at Harvard Medical School. He's also the co-host of Food, We Need to Talk, which is a podcast from PRX. And maybe you might want to put a link to your podcast in the chat so that people can enjoy that. And he's also the director of the Lifestyle Medicine Program at Spalding Rehab Hospital. We're next going to hear from Dr. Matt Russell, who is the medical director of geriatric medicine and also the ambulatory director for geriatric medicine for the Division of Geriatric Medicine. So with that, let's get started. We're going to begin with Dr. Phillips.
I'm going to share my screen. Share. Is that visible now?
Yes.
And my chat disappeared, but I will proceed just the same. So first off, thank you guys for staying on screen. It makes this much more interactive than just staring at a blank screen on my end. And feel free to ask questions as you go. And to the organizers, if you interrupt me, that's fine. I like conversations more than just talking. So the topic in the few minutes I have with you is about maintaining movement. And the simple thing, if you remember nothing else, is that if you don't use it, you will lose it. A body in motion tends to stay in motion. You've probably heard lots of advice about getting 150 minutes per week of physical activity at a moderate intensity, like a brisk walk. Today, because that's so common, I'm going to focus a little bit more on resistance training and on a little bit of balance, which is critical, especially as we get older. When I first heard the phrase resistance training about 20 plus years ago, I had 3 toddlers at home who were screaming, no, 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 whenever I asked them to do anything. And I thought, oh, that's resistance training. But actually, it's anything that stresses your muscles, not stresses you, as the toddlers were doing at that point. So anything that stresses your muscles, the most popular would be weightlifting, but there's many other versions of this. And it's really important, and it's part of the recommendations from the federal government, from the physical activity guidelines for Americans. So I'm going to start off with a little poll of the audience, and I think that Monique will be able to assist with this, to ask or to have you guys tell us how often you do resistance training. And I'm thinking of like 20 to 30 minutes of doing sort of a vigorous yoga class, or using resistance bands, or having someone guide you through this. And I can see the answers coming up here. We'll give you another couple of seconds here. And although the general population, the true answer to this question is somewhere 25% or less, I guess people drawn to this subject already have some predilection to it, because we're getting upwards of 2/3 of you that are doing twice or more. So the recommendation is actually twice per week of resistance training. We tend to we advise people not to do it 2 days in a row. And the reason for that is that if you lift weights with your arms on a Monday, it could take up to 24 hours or more for your muscles to react and to have this delayed onset muscle soreness. So you don't want to do the same exercise the very next day, but 48 hours later would be fine. Or you could do your arms one day and your legs the next day and your core the third day. So thank you guys for voting, and we've got still over 60%. And if you keep on doing this, or find a new way of doing resistance training, that will be great.
Dr. Phillips?
Yes.
Can I interrupt just for a second? We have a question. Could you please define resistance training?
So resistance,
what is it?
Yes. So resistance training is going to be any kind of exercise that's going to stress your muscles. Now, when you go for a walk, you're stressing your muscles, but this is something in which your muscles are actually working against a resistance. So I will show you these as I go, but I have a green resistance band in my arm. If I wrap this around here and I hold it, I'm just sort of holding my arms out. If I start to stretch it, I'm working against a resistance. And this is a form of exercise in which I'm exerting energy in order to hold it. When I let it back, if I were to lift up something heavy, bigger maybe than my cup, but imagine this being filled with lead. If I keep on lifting it up, I'm working my biceps. So you're working your muscles against a resistance. And I'm going to answer the question more fully in just a moment by having you guys do it. And then when you feel it, I think you might even be a little bit more engaged in the answer. So we've got you guys doing it. There is this is a picture from the Body World exhibit. It comes around to Boston and tours the world. These are plasticized volunteers. Obviously, this is a child. The muscles are not, as people think, like, you know, the male in this picture and the female. They're actually the muscles from that skeleton. And this is my reminder to say that as much as I can see of you guys on the screen, if your brain's working well enough to fire your nerves, and your nerves are firing your muscles, that's what's going to make your bones move, and you're going to be able to do exercise. So we'll get to that in a minute. Let me just show a couple of more slides. Here's the formal answer to the question from the American College of Sports Medicine. It's a form of physical activity. That's the general term for exercise. It's designed to improve your muscular fitness. You're working your muscle or a muscle group against an external resistance. It can be a weight, it can be gravity, it can be a resistance band. And there's many positive health outcomes, and that's why you might want to do it, as most of you are doing. What you move your muscles against is irrelevant to your muscles. As I like to say, your muscles are agnostic. They don't know what music you're listening to. They don't know how expensive the gym clothing is that you're wearing, what brand it is. They don't know what YouTube channel you're doing, or if you're in your own basement doing push-ups and squats. You can use free weights. You can use dumbbells. That's popular. Weight machines you'll find more in a gym. Body weight, gravity wins. Elastic tubing we'll get into. You could even use common household objects. And there's some famous studies from a bunch of years ago now of going into nursing homes in the Boston area and giving 80-year-olds cans of soup to lift over their arms, or on their arms over their heads. And they're small cans of soup. And when you got stronger, they would use bigger cans of soup. And then the 80-year-olds were getting stronger. So they tried 90-year-olds and they were putting on muscle mass. So then they went for some centenarians and they were putting on muscle mass by adding resistance. So at any age, we retain the ability to put on muscle mass and to thereby become more functional. What does functional mean? You can do the things you want to be able to do. You want to go for a walk with grandchildren or great-grandchildren, great. You want to be able to get out of a chair? Great. Those are the things that you might want to do. This picture is not a stock photo. It's from an enormous study that I was a study physician on called the LIFE study. We took mobility impaired elders across the country, 1,600 of them. We had 200 at Tufts, and did resistance training. These folks are doing squats out of a chair. And all of these things are benefits from doing resistance training. You're going to have decreased risk of injury. It's going to strengthen your bones, less thinning. Your basal metabolic rate goes up. If you're looking to moderate your weight, lose weight, not gain weight, you want to increase your basal metabolic rate. You'll have less fatigue, improvement. You will have greater muscle mass. You won't be entering into competitions probably, but you're going to maybe bulk up a little bit. And there's more. You'll look better. QOL is quality of life, bone mineral density. We talked about body fat goes down. It will improve your glucose tolerance. By show of hands, who would like to get some of this drug? Because it seems to have all of these benefits. And Grace is already lifting weights there. Thank you. So let's move on and let's do that. So let's talk about functional fitness. This is what I mentioned. This comes from an American College of Sports Medicine article. Every year they look at fitness trends, and number 14 on the list for this year is functional fitness training. And basically, if you want to be able to get out of a chair, you should practice getting out of a chair. If you want to stay out of a nursing home, you should make sure that you can get off of the toilet, because that is the deciding point for even the most loving children. Finally saying, Mom, Dad, I think there's a better place for you. If you can't get off the toilet with, as the studies show, if you need an assist of more than one person, then it no longer becomes as possible for you to be at home. So I'm going to invite folks, and I'll do it with you, to, if you're sitting down, to sort of push back so you have some room in front of you. Gonna put your legs, your feet flat on the floor. And to do this properly, we're gonna try to start off without pushing on the arms of the chairs. As the model in the picture goes, I'll fold my arms for illustration, and Dr. Russell and Dr. Edgman-Levitan are going to join me and gently stand up. There we go. And I've lost my head. Okay. And you're going to sit down slowly. Good. And that's just number one. We're going to go again. Good. And we're going to go down. Excellent. And there's actually a lovely test where we see not only if you can do 5 of these, but can you do 5 in a row? And then we actually time you to see how fast you can do them. People with me here? Good, we'll do one more. In general, you can take a break for a second. In general, what you're gonna try to do is whatever you're doing today, tomorrow you try to do just a little bit more. If you live in an apartment house and you're having trouble walking around the neighborhood, you walk down the hallway and you turn back, and then tomorrow, write to me. I'll give you my email address and tell me how proud you are that you did 2 or 3 laps. So that's just sort of a gentle place to start, and a nice way to start with a sort of a very functional thing off of the chair. I'm going to have you guys stand up now. I'll try to adjust my camera, and we're going to get into just a wee bit of balance, along with a little bit of strengthening. And I'll invite you just to stretch with me by you stand up now and raise your arms all the way over your head. And we're going to talk about balance for just a little bit here. And we're going to stand up, and even just being able to stand quietly like this is great. If you go all the way up on your toes You can add a little bit of strengthening in your calves, and you're also going to maybe challenge your balance, and you can come down. And we're going to do a few toe ups, or actually heel rises. Your toes are staying on the ground, up and down. And whatever anyone writes to me or says, this is too easy, we always have something tougher for you. Because if you can do this, I'll invite you to start doing it with a single foot. But for right now, we're just going to do these a little bit. Good. And one more. Good. And I'll give you one more because you guys seem very engaged. If you put your legs out at like 45 degrees, so they're actually 90 degrees to each other at 45, I'm going to invite you to squat down, kind of lower than your chair now. Pretend like someone just rolled a big ball between your legs and you're picking it up and you're pushing it up. And you're going to, like one of those big therapy balls, and push it up. If you can't do the whole motion, do what you can. And you're going to go all the way down. If you had one strengthening exercise to do, I would say you're going to be doing the squat here. And one more. Good. I'm going to have you guys take a break for a second. And what we're doing here are body weight exercises. This is number 8 on the trend. So realize that this is during the pandemic. People are at their homes. They may not have equipment, but they have gravity. And I'll just share that this is not something new. Hopefully this will come up. Let's see. Oh, come on, give it 1 second. So this is a film. If you're wondering why you can't hear it, it's because it was done before talkies came out with the jazz singer. It was like in the late 20s. And this woman from around 1910 is going at it, and she's doing all body weight exercises. There's no sound that we're missing here. I advise you to work your way up to this. It's a little bit tough. I worked out the math, and if she keeps on doing this, she may still be with us. So thank you for her joining us. Hopefully I can get back to my, oh my God, where are we? That was, okay. So just to give you an idea that what we're doing is there's nothing sort of new to it. Let's do a little bit of balance exercise, because this is something that you can train in your own home very easily. So I'm going to invite you guys to stand up one more time, and I'm just going to take a couple of more minutes. So the first thing you're going to do is, if you're able to stand on 2 feet, that's good. That's really a good place to start. If you need to maintain your mobility by using a walker or a cane, use it. Think of it like a scaffolding. Keep moving, even if that's what you need. The more you use it, the better the chance at some point that you may not need it. But the test that we're going to do right now, we're going to challenge our balance in different ways. So the first one is actually, instead of standing with your legs about, a foot or so apart, as most of us stand, now park your feet right next to each other. So your heels and your toes are sort of touching each other. And I'm watching you guys to see that people aren't falling down. And now, to make this a little bit tiny tougher, we're going to sort of move your right foot up about 3-4 inches, so that you're nestling like your right heel into the instep of your left foot. So you're sort of, it's called like a semi-tandem stance. People are still with me. So I would invite you now to stand as though you're standing on a tightrope, with your left foot immediately behind your right foot, or your right foot behind your left foot. There we go. And I see Dr. Russell giving us a little wobble, so I know that he's working at this. And that's pretty darn good. But like I said, anything I give you to do, we can always make it tougher. So now we're going to have you do, if you wish, and make sure you have something to grab onto. If you want to challenge yourself, balance is made up of not just feeling your feet, but also coordinating it and seeing the horizon. If you look up towards the ceiling, it's going to be even tougher. So look up towards the ceiling. And if you want to qualify to become an astronaut and they're checking your balance, they're going to ask you to stand in tandem with your chin up, and now close your eyes and try to maintain your balance. And I'll start to fall out at that point. Good. One more test of balance for everyone. And this is got some lovely data behind it. If you stand just on 2 feet, have something to grab onto if you need. I'll have my hands just out here, and pick up just 1 foot from the floor. You can let it hover. And what you're going to do is you're going to count to 10, because there's pretty good evidence that your risk of mortality actually is diminished for those people that can maintain a single leg stance for at least 10 seconds. And if you can't do it for 10 seconds, it's okay. Just sort of lightly put your fingers down. And that was more than 10 seconds. We'll switch to the other side. Excellent. And if you could do 10 seconds, because you guys are doing your resistance training and you're interested enough to join the Geriatric Medicine Town Hall, you're going to work towards 30, 40 seconds up to a full minute. When you're able to do that, we'll start adding other challenges. So for instance, I can't demonstrate this well, but we'll have you start standing on 1 foot and then putting the other foot sort of out to the front, out to the back, to sort of challenge your balance. People with me here? Questions on doing a little bit of balance? Okay, I think I'm going to, oh, I disappeared. Let me fix this. So I'm a big fan of doing strength training, and I'll just demonstrate what I have in my office here. This is a very simple band that you've probably been given by a physical therapist at one point in your life. You can do lots of things with it. You could knot that into a band like this. Oh, look at Matt. There we are, Dr. Russell. He's got 2 colors. And you can use that for resistance. You can put it around your legs and do your squats that way. If you want to get a little fancier, some folks, and for me, I prefer to use something that has handles. Okay. I'm not a surgeon. I do rehab medicine, but this is called surgical tubing. Thank you for Diana. Oh, I love the participation. So I have this around my feet. Diana can do that if she wants to put it around her feet and sort of gently go up. I'm working and then down. And I can do these. And you may not realize it if you're on a Zoom call with me. I might be busy doing my resistance training in my office here. There's even another version of them where the band comes in a tube like this, and that just makes it easier if you want to start doing even small exercises like this. The different colors are aligned with how much resistance you have. Generally, the darker the color, the more resistance. You work your way up from yellow, black would be often the heaviest resistance. And I'm going to just sort of finish off with an invitation to you guys. One of the best ways now for transmitting health information in a creative and entertaining way is through podcasting. And I've been working on a podcast for several years, originally through WBUR. And then after not after the pandemic, but after 2 years, now sponsored by Public Radio Exchange. And I've got a young colleague, she's here on the left. That's my little avatar on the right there. And I invite you guys to join us for a science-based, humor-laced approach to health and fitness. If you have a question like my mother at 91 years old saying, you're lucky I'm talking to you on the phone, I can use the computer, what's a podcast? Then we just, invite you to just join us on the web at foodweneedtotalk.com. And all of the episodes are there, and you can send in your questions and tell us what you think. If you're looking for more resources, I know that these questions came up. I looked up a couple online, tending towards the ones that are run by an organ like a .org rather than a commercial entity. The ones that I liked, Senior Planet, did a couple of their videos, and then Seniors Mobility, and then that's again for the podcast. So I'll stop there, and after Dr. Russell speaks, take your questions. Thank you. Great. I'll unshare, sorry.
Dr. Russell?
Well, it's that time of year again, and I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce our patients to our 2 new geriatric fellows. So for those of you who've had the pleasure of being cared for by Dr. Famuyiro and Dr. Aronson this past year, they have moved on, and we now have Dr. Catherine Lum, who comes to us from the University of Alabama, a phenomenal geriatrics and palliative care center. Catherine, if you want to say hello. Oh, I think we need to give the ability to unmute you. Ask to unmute.
All right. Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name is Catherine Lum, and I'm really excited to be here. Nice to virtually meet you all.
Excellent. And then I think I saw Dr. Lindsay Barker. I can't see her right now. Is she there? Oh.
Hello, yes, I am.
All right, Lindsay Barker comes to us from the University of Massachusetts, my alma mater. So where are you? I can't see you.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh,
For
there
those
you
of
are,
you,
there
I
you are.
apologize if you can't see me.
Oh, okay.
But it's a pleasure to meet you all, and I look forward to meeting you, some of you in the clinic. And I really enjoyed some of those exercises. I realized that they're harder than I thought they would be.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much to both of you. We're looking forward to working with you this year. I will be working with Dr. Barker, and Dr. Levine will be working with Dr. Lum for continuity primary care patients. Some other just updates. I know everyone is curious about the state of COVID, and we are watching the prevalence of this as well. The current recommendations have not changed significantly, other than as we start to see the prevalence rise a little bit more, we may start to hear more about masking indoors. And the Boston Public Health Commission released last week a Twitter blast that said, to reduce your risk of contracting COVID, ensure that you are maximally boosted. So if you are on this call, generally speaking, and over 50, you should have received your second booster shot by now. If not, please get it. And continue masking indoors in crowded areas. Consider outdoor gatherings in space of indoor gatherings, and practice good common sense hand hygiene. Nothing really too earth-shattering in that. Again, if you do test positive for COVID, even if you're feeling, I feel fine, I don't really have symptoms, please make sure you alert us to that, because we have a tracking system to make sure you continue to feel okay, and also a decision tree that helps us figure out if you are eligible for any of the antiviral treatments, whether those are antiviral drugs or antiviral antibodies. So with that, I think that's all I have from a geriatric standpoint, and the clinic is up and running, and I'm hoping we can get a new carpet installed in our waiting room. That's been the other thing that I want.
All right. So I want to go back to Dr. Phillips. And so one of the first questions that came in is swimming a form of resistance training?
So swimming is really interesting, because when you're pulling on the water or trying to move through it, there is some resistance. But if you stand in the water and try to move your arms, that constitutes some resistance. If that's not enough of a challenge, remember there's always something more difficult. We give you a couple of plates or frisbees and move those against the water. And if you were to do that, you would, if you were to do like sort of water aerobics, especially with something bigger on your hands, like a plate or a frisbee, you would be doing resistance with your muscles. However, if you are an efficient swimmer and you're moving through the water, then the swimming is not going to be kind of sufficient to do the resistance training that we're talking about. In fact, swimmers classically, competitive swimmers classically do a large amounts of resistance training, otherwise known as dry land training, to get strong enough so that they can then swim efficiently. So enjoy your swimming, enjoy your walking, enjoy your biking, but then in addition, do the resistance training that we're talking about.
Great. We also had a question. Let me just go back up. A question about can you say a little bit about contraindications to exercises? Like, what are the things that would suggest that you shouldn't do this kind of resistance training, like spinal stenosis or knee arthritis?
So what's interesting, so first off, if you have a medical condition like that, I would start off with some professional guidance. And just to give a little plug for my field, which is physical medicine and rehab, we're the musculoskeletal specialists. We're not surgical. So we look at you, and there's many, we're physiatrists, phys like physical, iatros means doctor, we're the doctors of the body. There's many of us around the Boston area, within the Harvard system and beyond. So we look at you functionally. We look at the illnesses that you have, and then we try to use a resistance training to help actually overcome let's say the knee arthritis or the spinal stenosis. As an example, most often when I see someone who has knee arthritis, which is only every day, what I'm going to find is that they're carrying more weight than they wish to, and that stresses the knees, and that's only pretty much a national problem. So we'll set that one aside for a minute. But that also, when I ask them to do the kind of squats that we just did, they're not able to do it, and that or even if I resist with my arms, they're not able to overcome me. So it means that they need to get their legs stronger. So I look at resistance training not as having so what we call a contraindication, or that you can't do it with knee arthritis. We actually advise you to do it. Now, we might start off with strengthening the hip muscles. So your knee could be straight, and you could be doing like leg lifts to the front, to the side, to the back. You might be working on your ankles, or you might do sort of other resistance training where you're not bearing weight. So I had you guys doing squats, but if you had knee arthritis, I may, like that picture I showed you of the folks from the life study, I may have you doing gentle knee extensions with a weight around your ankle. Well, that would be an ankle weight. For spinal stenosis, for any kind of spinal condition, for many of them, probably the best thing you can do is to, in the old days, kind of when I started this, people would get a corset. They would get something, a wrap to support their back and around their abdomen. Now we say corsets are lovely, make your own. Strengthen up your core. Do not like sit-ups like the old days, but more bridging and doing a plank where you're keeping your body straight, or side planks like our friend from 1910 was doing on her side. So we actually advise strengthening in order to support the around your back, around your knee. And I'm going to give you the same answer for hip arthritis and other common ailments.
Okay. We also have a question about the study that you referenced in a nursing home, and about how long did it take to see positive results?
Oh, I don't remember exactly. It's going to be in the order of weeks and months. Days is not enough, and you certainly don't have to wait years. The studies that are done, I don't remember those exactly. But it's going to be on the order of a month or so, a month or two, where you're going to see significant changes. If you I feel funny talking to all you guys most of you who are doing resistance training, but those of you that aren't, or people that want to advance their training, for newbies, meaning you haven't done the resistance training, the first few weeks you will get significant changes because your nervous system sort of coordinates the firing to the muscles. So you'll actually get stronger. You'll be able to go from a small soup can to a large, or from a 5-pound weight to an 8-pound weight comfortably. And we could talk about, if you want to get into it, how many repetitions to do. That takes place over a number of weeks. The hypertrophy or the muscles building up takes place over the next months that come.
Okay. And also, I'm going to ask you to say a little bit more. I saw that you answered the question about the using stem cells to deal with some knee arthritis and other things in lieu of a knee replacement. But could you say a little bit more about that? I know sometimes I see ads for this and whatever, but could you just say a little bit more about how those work, what evidence we have about their value and that sort of thing?
So I'm going to just sort of answer more generally first, which is that one of my favorite things in rehab medicine is to take people that are contemplating surgery, and the surgeons are very happy for us to quote prehab the individuals, to say, let's get you into the best shape possible for eventually having a knee or a hip replacement. Those are the most common. And sometimes with modest, very few percent of weight loss, with strengthening up, with some limbering, with increasing activity, I'll have patients that say, do I actually have to go for the knee replacement because it's not hurting as much and I'm walking further than before? In which case, if I've got friendly orthopedic surgeons, they go, that's great. We'll see you when you need us. And so we're all about strengthening up, about getting folks in better shape, because if you end up with a new joint, that's great, but you need to be in shape to start to use it. So that now a lot of folks, they may try the strength training, they may try the limbering and the flexibility training, I should say. And then they realize, oh, geez, my knee just hurts too much. Is there anything else you can do? The range used to be, here's a steroid injection, which is still the benchmark of where we start. With some plus minus evidence, we often move on to injecting hyaluronic acid. The vernacular of how that works is we're trying to sort of thicken up the fluid in your knee. There's naturally some fluid in there that coats, many joints in your body, synovial fluid. It gets thinner as you get inflammation and arthritis, and why not thicken it up? I'm not a car guy, but they used to sell stuff called Slick 50 that you put into your engine oil to sort of extend its life. So hyaluronic acid is very popular and often tried with great success. So I routinely do that on my patients. Moving on from there, there's a lot of advancement made into doing what are more called biologics. So this is going to be something, sounds a little more biological than pharmaceutical. So one that's very popular now, I'm working at the VA, done here and in the community, is PRP, where we take your platelet, we draw a tube of your own blood. So it's all yours. We spin it down. We just get the platelets, which have more sort of healing properties, and then re-inject that into the area. So PRP, generally not covered by insurance, is very popular, done many offices. The next one that the questioner asked about is stem cells. I'm actually not as familiar with where that's being done, but you're trying to get the healing properties. My go-to person I put into the chat is a longtime colleague, Dr. Joanne Borg-Stein, hyphenated name, at Spalding Wellesley, and she writes lots of articles about this and tries to stay on the cutting edge of making available that which is evidence-based to keep all of us in the game.
Great. Can you also say something about what are suitable exercises for someone with moderate to severe Alzheimer's?
So for a bunch of years, I worked at McLean Hospital. I'm not a mental health specialist. I do musculoskeletal, and I spent most of my time in the geriatric psych unit. And one of the two units that they have there is for older adults with dementia, and often they were additionally, to get into the hospital, they were had some behavioral issues, so they were not thriving at home or in a nursing home, and then they were often chemically or physically restrained. So that's what we got started with. And I would say sometimes the simplest thing of an assisted walk with an individual who now is like sort of literally released from their chair and they get to walk around is a place where the magic starts to happen. People, as they can, love to walk. It's natural. You don't have to call upon a new skill. So someone with Alzheimer's, I'm probably not going to be teaching them the balance exercises or the resistance training that we started to do. But I would say that probably the simplest thing is walking. In fact, in many cases, a well-designed a dementia unit has a flow to it so that the patients there can walk sort of endlessly. They're not hitting the end of the hallway and then being confused about turning around. So in a well-designed unit, you may have patients doing many laps. We would work at McLean with a physical therapist who would assist with their balance, give them the confidence to walk. If they were used to using a cane and they were not unruly with the cane, we would give that to them, or a walker to encourage walking. So I would say that's about the most popular. On the other hand, you meet people where they are. If I had a patient who is driven by music and spent their life doing ballroom dancing, we're probably going to put on the music and tap into some long, deep memories of dancing around the floor. But we meet people as they are.
So Dr. Russell has just reminded us that we also have an exercise program that's offered through the geriatrics department and the dementia caregiver collaborative called Ageless Grace. And I think if you go on to the Geriatric Medicine website, you can find it. I think it used to be on Tuesday mornings, and it's really fun, and there are a lot of people participating. But I bet if you search Ageless Grace at Mass General, the information will pop up, and it's free, and it's all virtual. So other Tuesday mornings at 10:30. Thank you. Thank you. So other questions that people might have. And Dr. Phillips, I'm going to ask you if you could say, what is the one most important thing that you would recommend people doing of everything that we sort of tried out today? Any suggestions about that?
So I'll answer broadly and then specifically. So the broad answer is recognizing that as we age, we often confuse lack of activity with normal aging. And that's at our own peril. The society is geared towards rapidly declining physical activity, especially as we age. And we look around and it looks normal. The folks that show up to walk around the forest or the track or the mall where you're walking decline as we get older. So the first thing is simply keep moving. And do it with creativity, recognizing that there is a decline in our abilities, but that we have so much that we can take care of, and to maintain our mobility. Another broad answer is that as we age, we often lose muscle mass, and we can get into the details of it over the decades. And if you maintain the same weight and you lost your muscle mass, you must be replacing it with something. So that's often like sort of fatty infiltration into your muscles and around your organs in your body. And that's sort of the course, unless you choose to start or continue to do your resistance training. You're going to work your whole body. If you had one exercise to do, it's going to be getting up and out of a chair 5 times in a row. Time yourself. Don't hurt yourself, but time yourself, and then challenge yourself. And after a few weeks, time yourself again, and the time it takes to be up and out of the chair 5 times should diminish, and you'll be able to. And if you practice like that, you'll be impressed by how much easier it is to then climb stairs, to walk on the flats, to be out there in the community. And
Thank
can you get, there's a question about, can you get muscle back? Yes, you're building up muscle that you have. And that was the story I told with even the 100-year-old patients in the nursing home. Their muscles were being built up by lifting soup cans over their heads repeatedly.
Okay. We have a couple of other questions about, one is about post-polio syndrome. Do you have to do less exercise in affected limbs, which seems counterintuitive, but have heard that should be watched out for? And how can we improve balance with neuropathy in our feet?
So
And
with,
then
with post polio, again, I would see a specialist, and you actually have, if you remember back a few minutes ago when I showed you the picture of the Body World exhibit, and I said, if your brains are working and everything's connected through your nerves to your muscles, then you can move your bones. Well, if you have something where the connection is not as good because you've had polio and you've got wasting of the muscles, then the game's going to change a little bit. However, no matter what the sort of neuromuscular challenge is, we're still going to try to make you more functional. I would probably start more with a physical therapist and a neurologist or a physiatrist that are geared towards that. In terms of the balance, if you had trouble standing on one foot for 10 seconds, if you were saying, stand on my feet, I can't even feel them because of peripheral neuropathy, your body is an adaptation machine. You can improve your balance as you challenge it. And what's taking over is your vestibular system, which is you're represented by sort of your inner ear telling you where you are in space, your sense of where your joints are in space. Even if you can't feel the floor, you can pay more attention to your ankles and your knees and your hips to know where you are. If you need to connect with the floor in a different way, why not hold a little hiking stick or a cane that connects you to the floor? Even a light balance assist may make huge changes. I just spoke to a veteran today who was having trouble walking. I suggested hiking poles, which were light. He just needs to know where the floor is. And he called up just to say, he said, I'm up to 2 miles. And he had trouble getting into the office, not because he was weak, but because he has peripheral neuropathy. So be creative. Sometimes if you have someone's hand to hold, even that might help you with your balance.
Thank you. Dr. Russell, we've got a couple of minutes left, so I know you want to add some information about what's going on with our weather.
Yes. So we happen to be in a very, very, very droughty, hot kind of situation right now. And I just wanted to make the plug for air conditioning and thoughtful and deliberate hydration. It's really important. I know I did this last summer as well, but it's really important to understand that even inside in air conditioning, we can become depleted of volume. And it's important to keep up with our oral intake of fluids. So 6 to 8 ounces, 6 to 8 glasses, 8-ounce glasses of water or the equivalent each day. As we age, our thirst reflex actually diminishes a little bit. And so people might sometimes not even be aware that they're becoming dehydrated. And dehydration can lead to several really avoidable hospitalizations around things like falls, kidney injury, and over-diuresis, meaning if you're on a water pill and it's 1,000 degrees out and you're not keeping up with your fluid intake, you could get dried out even more. So I just ask folks, and I see someone.
Matt, you're on mute.
Sorry, I see someone drinking water, and I want to say thank you, So Young. That's great. So please stay up with your air conditioning and your fluids. And if you're feeling lightheaded or dizzy, or your urine is starting to get the color of a crayon, please hydrate.
What color crayon, Dr.
Oh,
Russell?
yeah, exactly. I should have been clear. Yellow. If it's some other color, please call us right away.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments that anyone wants to add to the chat? All right, I agree. This has been wonderful. I've learned a lot. I'm going to now start jumping up and down out of my chair as much as possible. So COVID has not been good for, I think, any of our exercise routines. So this is really, really helpful. Thank you, Dr. Phillips. And thanks to everyone who joined us today. I think we're going to be able to end a little bit early. And I also really encourage you to take a look at the Ageless Grace program. It's fun. The teacher is amazing and plays wonderful, fun music. And I think it's very valuable. So, all right. Have a great rest of your afternoon and stay cool.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.